For more than 2 centuries, thrill seekers have thronged to amusement parks.
The goal of any ride is to overcome your fear and stretch your limits to get a big thrill.
Every time they go round, these giant steel beasts give riders a thrill that stretches the laws of physics. But the tiniest little mishap can transform the thrill into a nightmare.
But we were laughing, yeah, and then all of a sudden, it just went south.
There's a hard, sharp clank, the sound of metal breaking.
It went clank and came to a halt, and you're hanging there, upside down.
These gigantic thrill rides are designed to test our limits. They let us defy death for a few short moments and have some good fun.
It's like experiencing something that you don't experience every day. The sensation is exhilarating. It makes you feel good. You know, it makes you excited.
So how is it these machines, designed by top-notch engineers and built to meet the latest safety standards, sometimes go so terribly wrong?
Our worst fear is obviously somebody getting hurt.
You feel pressure building in your head and everything starts swelling.
I thought I could hold on if anything happened, but at 60 miles an hour, you're not holding on to nothing.
Accident victims, ride builders and industry experts will reflect on some of the worst accidents in the amusement industry.
T-shirts were raining down, shoes were dropping, people started yelling.
The rest you see isn't dangerous. It's the rest you can't see.
How are these rides designed, inspected, and serviced?
All kinds of strict calculations are made, with safety coefficients.
Service, inspect, tighten, check, lubricate, those are the bare basics.
We always expect experts to be perfect, but they can make mistakes too.
What kind of mishaps, often largely invisible, can cause accidents that turn into tragedies?
Why did those cap screws fall out? What's the explanation?
When you find something you can't put it off, you've got to fix it. Little things become big things.
So get your ticket and join us for another astounding event that spins out of control. Roller coasters, boosters, and circle swings. These awe-inspiring machines are built with tremendous care and given regular maintenance checks to ensure they hold up to the powerful forces applied on them.
The products that have come onto the market over the past 15 years are extremely high quality in terms of safety.
These are very safe machines. If you think of a roller coaster as a simple means of transport, like a car or a plane, then it's the world's safest means of transport. When you visit an amusement park or fair, you have a greater chance of getting into a bad accident while driving to the park than while riding the attractions.
Everybody assumes amusement rides are safe because they've been inspected and built by engineers. And even though they go very fast, people get on them to be scared but not to be injured.
Even with all these precautions, the tiniest little hiccup can make everything go wrong.
You can never take rust too seriously.
And when accidents do happen, they tend to be spectacular. Columbus, Ohio, in the northeastern United States. This footage, filmed by the NBC4 TV station, shows ride operators busy at work at the Ohio State Fair, doing mandatory safety checks. Like the 76 other rides at the fair, the Fireball passes the check and is open to the public. The Fireball is a pendulum ride, known in the fair business as a booster. Supported by 4 steel pillars, the center arm sways back and forth at a maximum angle of 120 degrees, swinging riders 22 meters into the air.
It looks like a bunch of arms with hands like this, and the whole thing, the center of the ride will spin. It's also known as the wild claw, okay? And maybe using the wild claw is a better example of talking about the action and reaction of the ride. It's a high thrill ride.
6 gondolas, with 4 riders each, are fastened to the center arm. The gondolas rotate as the structure swings back and forth. Riders feel 5.2 Gs of force, as much as in a fighter jet.
There are positive Gs and there are negative Gs. Positive Gs are when you're being pushed back to the back of the seat and your butt into the top of the seat. Now, a negative G is when you're spinning basically in the opposite direction. You actually feel like you're floating in your seat. The sensation is exhilarating. It makes you feel good. It makes you excited.
That euphoric feeling is exactly what 18-year-old Tyler and Keziah are seeking. On July 26, 2017, the teens decide to spend the evening at the local fair. The Fireball is one of their favorite rides.
Oh, I met him, I think he was like 16. And back then, he was just kind of like this little dorky kid with glasses and a big smile. I just felt so comfortable, and I was like, wow.
But what should have been a fun night out comes to a brutal and tragic end.
I remember we went to the fair, and that's about it, and then waking up in the hospital.
At 1920, Keziah and her friend Tyler are strapped into the Fireball. Like hundreds of riders before them, they have no qualms about riding the sturdy machine, which seems to be well maintained. The Fireball has a big asset that makes riders feel safe. Its seats. With shoulder restraints and a safety harness, it's designed like a race car seat. Every little detail has been thought out.
There's a harness restraining your shoulders. The seats have a raised rounded horn that blocks your legs. So your lower body is blocked. A harness pins your shoulders back, holding you into the seat. Once you're locked inside, you can barely move.
Sitting side by side, Tyler and Keziah are ready to go, blissfully unaware of the looming danger. But inside the giant arm that holds their gondola, the metal has been eaten away by an invisible enemy, rust.
You can never take rust too seriously. Just ask your dentist what happens if you don't brush your teeth. You lose teeth. On the amusement ride, you lose parts.
Normally, the metal on the Fireball's arms is more than 3 millimeters thick enough to hold and lift the gondolas. This photo, taken the day after the accident, shows the interior of the Fireball's arm. Eaten away by rust, the metal is only 0.5 millimeters thick, 6 times thinner than normal. The arm's structural integrity has been significantly weakened.
Water will make things rust, it will corrode things, and that's what it did for years. I mean, this ride's been around, I think, for 20 plus years.
Like many amusement rides, the Fireball is a portable fold-up structure that is exposed to adverse weather conditions. When it is being moved or stored, water can seep into the metal parts. If the water isn't drained, it can sit there for months and eat away the inside of the structure, which has no weather-resistant coating.
It attacks the steel, and steel contains iron, which oxidizes with moisture when there's O2 in the air. So a layer of oxidation will form and weaken the metal.
Amusement ride owners are very familiar with the danger of corrosion. If treated in time, it's not a problem. But rust can creep up anywhere, and on the Fireball, it's not easy to spot.
Rust can surprise you, because there are places where it can be seen. The rust you see isn't dangerous. It's the rust you can't see.
Unfortunately, this kind of failure is invisible to the naked eye during a basic inspection, because we can't see what's going on inside the metal arm.
Ken Martin assesses the safety of amusement rides. According to this top expert, checking a ride's interior isn't just technically possible, it is vital before any ride is put into operation.
You want to inspect the exterior that you can see. You want to inspect what you can't see. You want to see what's in between things. How do we tell if a ride is corroding on the inside? We have a device that if we have a hole, we can stick that device in, and it's like something a doctor would use to look inside your body if he's doing surgery. We can look and see what's going on in there. Then there's a test that we can do. It's like an ultrasound, just like a woman may have an ultrasound when she's pregnant. We can look inside and we can measure the thickness of the metal.
And yet on the morning of July 26, 2017, a team of independent inspectors came in to check the Fireball. But they only made a superficial inspection, and they didn't see anything worrying.
It was negligent on every inspector. There were 6 inspectors that looked at that ride, okay? And all of them signed off on it. And these inspectors, mind you, are supposed to be some of the best inspectors in the country. I don't think so.
Their negligence will have horrific consequences for the Fireball's riders. In 1923, the Fireball starts up. It steadily gears up to full speed, firing up to 25%, then quickly rising to 50%, and finally 100%. Hurtling through the air, the riders, including Keziah and Tyler, enjoy a big thrill. But 45 seconds into the ride, the unthinkable happens. It's hard to take in what just happened. The accident was so sudden and fast. As the giant arm is swooping down, the arm supporting the gondola carrying Keziah, Tyler, and 2 other riders breaks off and falls away. Keziah's and Tyler's shoulder restraints fly open, but the Fireball keeps moving. The teen's free-falling carriage is hit by the oncoming carriage and knocked into the ride frame. The 2 unharnessed teens are hurtled through the air 15 meters above the ground.
When the arm holding the carriage snaps and the carriage becomes unhooked, 2 harnesses fly open and 2 people are thrown off the ride. They fly through the air and come crashing down, hitting the ground extremely hard. But there are still 2 other people locked into the carriage. They'll crash down below at the foot of the ride.
In 1930, around the Fireball, it's total chaos. 7 people are badly hurt, including Keziah, whose injuries are life-threatening.
I broke my back in 2 places, my upper and lower spine. My pelvis broke. I broke my hip, my ankle, and I had like a fractured shoulder and neck.
Her friend Tyler didn't survive the fall.
Just remember asking my mom, like, where's Tyler? And she said, well, he was one of the people who didn't make it, honey. And I was just like, oh.
After the accident, all eyes are on the ride's builder. The inquiry shows nothing had been designed to drain water out of the Fireball's steel structures and prevent them from rusting.
It should be designed so that water or moisture cannot accumulate in the ride, because water and metal do not mix. That's why it's so important to have drainage holes or weep holes in the steel structures so that water can pass through and not accumulate. Because the water as it lays there, just, rust, you name it, anything can happen.
Not only were lives changed, but a life was lost because of negligence, essentially, and things need to change.
After a 3-year battle, Tyler's mother got a new law enacted in Ohio named after her dead son. Tyler's Law strengthens amusement ride inspections. But while the state of Ohio has tightened its rules, that hasn't happened everywhere.
Safety regulations in the United States, at best, are like a quilt made out of patches. They do one thing in Utah, they do something else in Maryland, they do yet another thing in Florida. Okay, it's a patchwork of regulations.
But sometimes, even when competent crews follow strict rules, accidents can still seemingly spring out of nowhere, giving thrill seekers an absolutely terrifying ride. We're at the Wallaby Amusement Park in Wavre, Belgium. Inside this building, the fully enclosed Psyche Underground roller coaster hurdles riders blindly through the dark, giving them a heart-pumping thrill. And the riders aren't the only ones in a cold sweat. This machine once gave its operator a big scare as well. It happened in 1997, when the Psyche Underground was called the Sirocco. It was an open roller coaster back then, and it was the amusement park's big draw.
It was the top attraction at the park because there weren't many big thrill rides back then.
In operation for 15 years, the Sirocco is what engineers call a shuttle. A 220-meter-long roller coaster with a 27-meter-tall loop. Instead of running on a circular track, the train rockets forward until its momentum drops, then rolls backward down the track. This unique functioning is made possible by 2 spikes that tower up at the structure's ends. The first of its kind in Europe, the ride stands out from other roller coasters because of its fast launch acceleration. It reaches 85 kilometers an hour in just 3 seconds, literally pinning riders to their seats. It's the same principle used on aircraft carriers. The machine is catapulted forward, building up tremendous speed in a short distance.
This ride was already mythic. One of the main reasons was the high G-force on your body. You got to experience incredibly fast acceleration, which no other ride could give you. It's comparable to the acceleration experienced by a Formula One race car driver.
You thrust at 80 kilometers an hour and then you shoot right into the loop. You shoot up, you get topsy-turvy, and then you come down and do it all backwards. Your stomach feels all kinds of wild sensations. My name is Jeremy Greb. I was one of the people that day on the Sirocco.
Back in 1997, 15-year-old Jeremy is a regular at the amusement park. On Wednesday, August 27th, he and a friend had already taken several turns on the Sirocco.
We got there late in the day, the park was about to close, and our parents would be picking us up soon. We decided to go for one last ride on the Sirocco.
At 16:45, the warning horn goes off. Jeremy and his friends take seats in the back of the train, and they're off for the last ride of the day.
The train takes off, but it doesn't accelerate like usual, which is weird. It goes slower, you don't get the same thrill. At first, we don't notice anything wrong. We're just enjoying the ride, and we're not really thinking about it.
The train moves along the track and goes through the first loop. Everything's working in theory, even if the Sirocco is moving slower than usual. For good reason. When the ride started, a bolt on the booster which propels the train forward broke. The train wasn't launched forward at full speed.
We start going round, but we don't get high enough. We go a lot lower than usual, and then we start rolling backward.
The train does what's called a rollback. Pulled by gravity, it rolls backward and starts looping again. But this time, when it reaches the top of the loop, there's a problem.
It went clank and came to a halt. And you're hanging there, upside down.
16:46. 1 minute after the ride starts, the Sirocco and its 27 riders get stuck at the top of the loop, dangling upside down 30 meters in the air. When park manager Dominique Fallon learns of the mishap, it's his worst nightmare come true.
Your biggest fear is obviously people getting injured or killed. That's all that matters at a time like that.
At 16:55, we got a call from the emergency call center informing us of an incident at Walibi Park.
At the time, Philippe Vausteval is a lieutenant in the fire brigade. He and his crew are the first ones on site.
When we got there, things were pretty confused and chaotic. There was lots of tension in the air. We saw a car stuck 28 meters in the air and 20 people hanging upside down. Our first question was, how much danger are these people in?
Fans of loop roller coasters are used to the feeling of hanging upside down, but never for more than a few seconds. Hanging upside down for too long can cause serious problems, losing consciousness, suffocation, and even brain swelling. Claustrophobia can set in, driving some people to try and free themselves from the car, with the situation potentially spinning out of control.
There's little chance of brain lesions, but hanging upside down can trigger interrelated problems, like panic and growing tension.
We have no idea what's going on. We can see people running around and talking. The park director is there, but nobody tells us anything. Nothing. And gradually we all start panicking.
T-shirts were raining down. Shoes were dropping. People started yelling. That's when panic started setting in.
Some riders have a hard time keeping their calm. 2 rows ahead of Jeremy, a young man starts to lose it.
One guy starts panicking and yelling. We tell him everything will be okay. You just got to stay cool. But there's nothing else we can do. We're stuck.
The firemen realize they need to do something fast. They consider several different strategies.
One possible solution was to get all 27 people fully secured. And by secured, I mean with a harness, ropes and straps, to ensure they're strapped to the car. Once that's done, we might be able to cut open these safety bars and free them. But that kind of maneuver would have taken a long time, more than 4 or 5 hours, so we ruled it out.
The firemen don't have any technical information about the safety bars, making the option even riskier.
Is it a pneumatic system, or hydraulic, or mechanical? Does the locking system automatically release after a certain amount of time? And if we make a wrong move, could the safety harness release? Our biggest fear was that the safety bars would release, and not just for 2 or 4 people, but on the entire train, which would have been a total disaster.
Meanwhile, the dangling riders continue looking down on the scene from their eerie viewpoint.
Everybody's running around, walkie-talkies are going off everywhere, and all we can do is watch all these ants scrambling around below us. We can hear the firemen saying, "Oh, we don't know what to do, nothing's working." Well, doesn't really help the mood on the train.
1745. The Sirocco has been stuck in the middle of the loop for an hour. Jeremy and the 26 other riders have been hanging upside down for an hour, waiting to be rescued. The pain is getting hard to bear.
You feel pressure building in your head, and everything starts swelling. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. It feels like your eyes are popping out. It's really, really painful.
But the suffering riders will have to keep waiting. Unable to release the safety bars, the firemen try to pinpoint the cause of the problem.
We make deductions. A broken wheel or axle, a worn-out axle tree, an obstacle on the track, an emergency braking system that got triggered.
What made the train mysteriously stop in the middle of the loop? There's no apparent cause. Nothing broken, no foreign objects, nothing preventing the train from moving forward.
So they put firemen in a bucket and they bring it up alongside us. We can hear them. They're looking around without actually touching the train.
There is one possible explanation, but it's hard to believe. The train has simply come to its balance point at the top of the loop. Normally, when the Sirocco swoops down from the spire, it's moving fast enough to overcome the force of gravity and soar through the loop. But this time, the coaster failed to launch correctly and gradually lost speed until it came to a halt at the top of the loop, where the driving forces are canceled out, and now it's hanging there in perfect balance.
This unfortunate incident defied all the laws of physics, with the train coming to a perfect balance at the top of the loop.
To my knowledge, it's the first time this has ever happened. We've seen rides get stuck along their tracks since then, because they were moving too slowly, but only on flat surfaces or when going round a bend. But this train started rolling backwards and got stuck at the lowest point in the circuit, which is absolutely extraordinary.
Neither we nor the ride builder ever dreamed it was possible for the train to stop upside down at the top of the loop.
If the Sirocco isn't stuck, then it can get moving again. But getting a machine this heavy moving from a position like this is an incredibly delicate operation. The fireman's first thought is to hook a rope to the front of the train and pull the cars forward. But the train is too heavy. It doesn't work.
We're getting really worried now. We're thinking, nothing's working. Why can't they find a way to get us down?
1815. Time is running out. The 27 riders have been hanging in the air for an hour and a half. As a last resort, they decide to push the train with a hydraulic jack, the only tool with enough thrust to get the 7-ton train moving. They send the jack up in a bucket and position it at the back of the train.
We've got our backs to the fireman and we can't see what he's doing. So we don't know what he's hooked up back there. We heard him moving around, but we couldn't see anything.
We still have one big worry. Could something else go wrong?
They just did it, with no warning. Without telling us anything, not a word. Suddenly, we're moving forward. Well, yeah, I mean, that totally freaked us out. Because we thought that the train had come unhooked and we were falling.
1820. The maneuver works. The hydraulic jack pushed the train past the balance point.
There was lots of rejoicing when they came back down, with clapping and cries of joy. We all breathed a big sigh of relief. And the riders, of course, but everyone working to rescue them too.
Luckily, no one was injured. But after hanging upside down for an hour and a half, the riders all undergo a medical check. Amazingly, the mishap doesn't scare people off. When the Sirocco opens back up, it's more popular than ever.
3 weeks later, we opened the ride back up, and it started drawing more riders than ever. Youngsters who rode the roller coaster 3 weeks later would ask us, "Can't you stop the train at the top?" They wanted to have the same experience.
As for the Sirocco, it proved to be a sturdy ride. Well designed and regularly serviced, the roller coaster held up when a part unexpectedly broke.
In the end, we realized it was a very safe ride because of its safety harness system and cars hooked right to the track. People did suffer some discomfort. Hanging there for an hour and a half certainly wasn't fun, but none of the riders were injured.
But sturdy equipment isn't always enough to ward off tragedy. A design flaw or a moment of carelessness can turn thrill rides we like to think of as foolproof into nightmare machines.
I just remember projecting out of the car, and that was it.
June 1986. Edmonton, in the western Canadian province of Alberta. Home to the biggest shopping center in North America, the West Edmonton Mall, captured in this amateur footage. The mall has several recreation centers, including an amusement park with its famous Mindbender ride. Opened 6 months earlier, it's one of the world's biggest roller coasters. At 1,286 meters long and 40 meters tall, the Mindbender is just like the mall that houses it, gigantic. Awed by the sheer enormity of it all, Rodney Sirocco and his friend David decide to visit the mall. It's June 14th, 1986.
My name's Rodney Sirocco. I was 25 years old when the accident happened. We were amazed of what the mall looked like and the size of it. We had never ever seen anything like that, you know, so we were amazed, and we just wandered around, and then Dave said he wanted to check out the Mindbender.
The outsized Mindbender is the big star for thrill seekers. The gigantic first drop catapults the roller coaster to a speed of 95 kilometers per hour, with riders experiencing 5 Gs of force.
Which means things weigh 5 times their normal weight. The train weighs 5 times heavier, and all the riders are 5 times heavier too, which quickly adds up to 12 tons weighing down on the tracks and the train.
There's lots of lines for people to get onto it, and lots of people talking about their experience going on it for the first time. Some of them a bit scared. Sometimes people talk about having sore shoulders or sore necks from the G-forces of this of this ride, going around the steep curves and up the steep banks.
It was enormous, freakishly scary, and it was just like, whoa, this is going to be one intense ride.
1700. Rodney's friend David is fascinated by the colossal ride, insisting they give it a try.
I was scared. I never was in a roller coaster one, but I'm not one to say no. You know, I was with my buddy. I mean, you know, and then we got in line, but then something had happened, and they had to shut it down.
The roller coaster has started making a strange sound. It needs to be checked to ensure it's safe. The operators inspect the machine, but don't find anything amiss.
They went under the train and looked at everything. Nothing appeared to be wrong. Then they tested the roller coaster by running it empty a few times.
The crew didn't find anything wrong with it, so they decided to start the coaster back up again with riders.
After a 30-minute inspection, the Mindbender is back in operation. Rodney and David get on the roller coaster, oblivious to what's unfolding right under their feet.
I remember saying something to David about this is not secure, and then just hanging on to that bar and going, well, here goes the ride.
1759. The roller coaster starts up, but the entire train is in grave danger. None of the operating crew noticed it for good reason. They would have had to dismantle the train to see the problem. Under the back left car, the one where the two friends are sitting, a wheel assembly called a bogie is about to fall off. Hidden away under the metal structure, the bolts holding the bogie to the car have worked loose. The car could derail at any instant.
That's why the operators heard metallic banging noises. The mechanical part came loose and started shaking like this.
That failure of these cap screws meant that the wheels fell off, and that's what led directly to the accident happening.
I'm not a heights fan. If I'm looking down, I gotta hang on to something. When that car started going up and we went up to the top of that thing, and then I looked down and I went, oh my God, this is gonna be one big drop. And the speed that thing took off on was unreal. You got thrown around on that thing. We were bouncing side to side. But we were laughing, yeah, and then all of a sudden, it just went south.
1800. Rocketing forward at nearly 100 kilometers per hour, Rodney and his buddy David experienced the Mindbender thrill, a wild ride that lives up to its reputation. But the fun will be short-lived.
I remember dropping and then climbing back up and dropping and then climbing back up, and then I could see that we were getting into the loops, and I was hanging on upside down, and that's something I had never ever done in my life, was to do that on any ride, right? And then the next thing I know, we just went through a braking station, and we were just lining up to come down into the loop, and that's when the car started to fishtail.
After going through the first two loops, the train is heading into the last drop to do the final loop. But as Rodney's and David's car heads into the drop, it loses control. Under the heavy vibrations, the bolts on the bogie have worked completely loose. And the entire assembly depends on those bolts. The center of the bogie is a hollow cylinder that hooks into a metal bar fastened to the car. These 4 bolts are the only thing holding the assembly together. Without the bolts, the car loses its wheels. That's exactly what happened when the car came out of the third bridge run. The bogie fell off, falling 10 meters to the ground. The cars on this type of thrill ride are subjected to incredibly strong forces. This footage of a bogie at work on a roller coaster in Florida shows just how violent it can be.
It happened so fast that I didn't even have time to react or nothing. I thought I could hold on if anything happened, but at 60 miles an hour, you're not holding on to nothing.
Suddenly, there's a loud metallic noise that's extremely alarming. It's a sharp, loud sound, the sound of something breaking.
This photo, taken during the investigation, shows the faulty bogie that fell into a stairwell under the Mindbender. Without this bogie, the car can't stay on the track, triggering a chain reaction that spins out of control.
Things start bumping around. The car slams back and forth, and other mechanical parts break.
Once the bogie assembly starts to fall away from the rear car, it can go back and forth. It doesn't stay on the track.
It slams into a pillar. It bangs around on the track, bouncing back and forth at a crazy speed because the car is still in the drop. And it's still hooked to the first 3 cars that are pulling it forwards. They're still working correctly.
On the track, Rodney's and David's car is coming apart. The 2 friends are still locked into their seats by lap bars when the unthinkable happens. The car continues its wild ride, with its sides banging into the surrounding structures, and the release buttons that open the lap bars are located on the car's outer right side.
And so the rear car is whipping back and forth as it goes around the steep curve coming toward the loop. And as it whips, the restraints are released. And so the people in this car are thrown out many meters to the concrete floor underneath the Mindbender.
We didn't have a seat belt or nothing. We just had that lap bar and then a bar to hang on to. And I just flew.
3 of the 4 riders, including Rodney and David, are flung from the car at a height of nearly 10 meters.
And that was it. And I don't remember anything after that. Like, you know, I just remember flying over top of David and then hitting the ground. It happened so fast.
1801. After barreling on chaotically for another minute, the roller coaster rams into a pillar and comes to a halt. On the ground, 4 bodies: Rodney, David, and Cindy, the first 3 passengers ejected. Along with Tony, the car's 4th rider couldn't withstand the force of the crash.
When I woke up from landing, I thought to myself, well, this is great, first ride, and I got thrown off. And then I went to stand up, and that's when I noticed that I had a hard time breathing. I don't know how long I waited, about 15 minutes, I think. And then I heard one of the paramedics yell, "I found him."
Rodney doesn't know it yet, but he's the only survivor.
After the accident, I woke up in intensive care unit at 5 o'clock in the morning, and where I was so badly broken up, and they just couldn't believe that I survived my injuries.
Rodney is alive, but his body is shattered. His legs, his hips, and his ribs are broken. He will never fully heal from the injuries he suffered.
And I had to learn how to use my body all over again.
Jim Montgomery is an engineer. He led the team of experts who spent a year investigating the accident, and what he learned called the safety of the entire roller coaster into question.
The forces that the roller coaster is designed for aren't large enough to really cause those cap screws to fall out. So what's the explanation?
Jim Montgomery discovers that the Mindbender has a serious design and fabrication flaw. The overly large gap between the parts intensifies the vibrations when the roller coaster is running. Over time, the stressed bolts warp and break, eventually falling off.
That's why the roller coaster came off the track, is the bogie assembly fell away, because that connection failed.
Rodney's and David's car wasn't the only one coming apart. The final accident report will show that 1/4 of the bolts on the train were faulty. They had all come loose and were partially or totally worn down. And the Mindbender had only been in operation for 6 months. After the accident, the company that built the Mindbender is singled out for blame. It declares bankruptcy a few years later, but the ride lives on.
Every time I'm in that mall, I go to where I landed and I look up. They changed my life, and fortunately they changed it for the worst. I mean, it's been 35 years of a lot of pain, but I've just learned to live with it and, you know, and forgive.
These days, high atop the West Edmonton Mall, the Mindbender continues to give riders a big thrill. It was put back into operation after the accident, with stepped-up safety measures. It is 1 car shorter, and the bogie assembly has been entirely redesigned. It has twice as many bogies now, and they are easier for maintenance workers to reach.
To prevent an accident like that from ever happening again, they modified the wheel fastening system by opening up the underside metal a bit. It makes it possible for regular visual inspections of the fastening system without taking everything apart.
Riders are now strapped into their seats by shoulder harnesses, along with the traditional lap bars. 30 years later, the Mindbender accident remains one of the most harrowing mishaps in the amusement industry. But safety has been steadily improving ever since. In Europe, a bevy of regulations and standards governing the design and maintenance of amusement rides have been in place since 2007. For instance, no rides are allowed to operate without an official certificate spelling out their maintenance schedule and service life. A giant step forward in the eyes of Safety Inspector Eugène Coignoux, who says security needs to be stepped up even further.
If I really feel like a ride is dangerous, I can refuse to certify it, but a rival agency can approve it. That's one problem we're working on, and I'd like things to go a lot faster, because there's lots more to be done, and it's perfectly doable.
Technical malfunctions on thrill rides can lead to spectacular and tragic accidents, but they're actually very rare. According to the Healthcare Supervision Institute, most accidents are due to the misbehavior of riders themselves.
Some people do really dangerous things. They rush onto a ride ahead of everybody else. They climb onto a ride that's already moving.
There are safety rules to prevent riders from making a bad move or doing something they shouldn't. But sometimes people disobey the safety rules spelled out at the start of the ride, doing things like stretching their arms out of the car.
But overall, the risk of a serious accident remains very low. According to the latest official figures, only 8% of accidents result in someone being hospitalized.
Luckily, accidents are very, very rare. The chances are similar to an airplane crash. It's actually less than an airplane crash. It's pretty close to zero. And ride operators and ride builders are working hard to completely eliminate the risk.
Lots of checks are run nowadays, on both the redundancy and the security systems. And if a system does malfunction, you always have a backup system that comes to the rescue. So you're really safe on an amusement ride.
Safety is the watchword of the amusement industry. Still, we can never forget that amusement rides are giant steel beasts that need constant monitoring to keep them from spinning out of control.